I had spent my entire life designing beautiful homes for other people. For 40 years I worked as an interior architect, building my own firm from scratch, traveling from city to city, pouring my creativity into spaces that became other families' sanctuaries. At 64, I finally decided it was time to design something for myself. That is how I ended up here in my oceanfront villa, the dream I had been saving for since my very first paycheck. The boxes were still stacked against the marble counters. My daughter's photo was the only thing I had unpacked, and the view of the Pacific stretched endlessly beyond the windows. It was supposed to be my peaceful beginning. Then the phone rang. Daniel Miller, my late daughter's husband, spoke with the tone of a man giving orders to an employee. "Diana, we are on our way. 15 of us. Prepare the beds, towels, food, slippers. We will be staying for 3 weeks. We will be there in 40 minutes. My hand tightened on the phone. The man who had taken so much already now sounded like he was entitled to the last piece of my piece. He even said Jessica wanted my master bedroom because it had the best view for her yoga videos. 40 minutes. 15 people. 3 weeks. All uninvited. My dream house was about to turn into their vacation rental, unless I stopped them. If you were in my place, what would you do when your sanctuary was about to be invaded? My name is Diana Whitaker, and I did not arrive at this villa by accident or by luck. Every square foot of polished stone, every curve of the glass balcony, every detail was built on 4 decades of long nights, deadlines, and relentless clients. I was an interior architect, the kind of professional who turned other people's dreams into realities. I managed projects that cost more than I dared to admit, all while quietly saving, investing, and putting my own desires on hold. I lived in modest apartments while I designed penthouses. I drove a sensible sedan while my clients parked sports cars in the garages I created for them. Every choice was deliberate, every sacrifice aimed at a single goal: that one day, I would wake up to the sound of waves in a home that belonged only to me. I raised my daughter Emily in the midst of all that work. After my husband died young, it was just the 2 of us. I stretched every dollar and every hour, balancing motherhood with running a growing firm. Emily grew up watching me hustle, and she inherited my warmth, if not my obsession with work. She met Daniel in college, a man with charm and big dreams, but no real foundation. At first I wanted to believe he was ambitious, but soon it became clear he was ambitious with other people's resources. The pattern started early. Daniel announced he needed to finish an MBA, a degree that would change everything for the family. Tuition was $45,000, more than some people earn in a year. Emily begged, and I paid. Then came their wedding, extravagant and over the top. I covered $30,000, telling myself it was tradition. When they bought their first home, Daniel's credit score was too low to secure a decent rate. I transferred $60,000 for their down payment. Each time, Emily would squeeze my hand and whisper, "Thank you, Mom. He really does appreciate it, even if he does not say so." But he never said so, not once. The requests multiplied instead. A car repair here, a sudden credit card bill there. I even covered the cost of an engagement ring upgrade when he decided his new wife, Jessica, deserved something special. Always a crisis, always urgent. Always positioned so that saying no meant I was cold or unkind, or not the loving mother Emily believed I was. Then came the hardest chapter. Emily fell ill. The medical bills mounted, and I poured $85,000 into treatments, hospitals, specialists. That money I gave without hesitation. It was not charity, it was a mother's desperate attempt to save her child. But even in that season of pain, Daniel managed to make it about him. He complained about stress, about how the debt was hurting his career, about how the responsibility was crushing him. At Emily's funeral 3 years ago, when I stood with my heart in pieces, he said out loud to another guest, "At least now we will not have all those medical bills." The words carved a wound I have never quite healed from. Still, I tried to help him. I thought it was what Emily would have wanted. I told myself he just needed time to find his footing. But with every dollar that left my account, respect left with it. Over 6 years, the tally reached nearly $300,000. Enough to buy a comfortable house in most American towns. Enough to fund the retirement I had delayed for so long. And yet Daniel looked at me not as a woman who had sacrificed, but as a resource waiting to be tapped again. That history was the backdrop to his phone call about the villa. He was not asking, he was demanding. He believed he had a right to my dream. What he did not know was that this time I was no longer the woman who automatically said yes. The phone call had ended, but its echo seemed to fill every corner of my new home. 40 minutes. 15 people. 3 weeks. Those words bounced around in my head as I stood in my sunlit kitchen, my hands resting on the edge of the marble island I had dreamed of for years. Outside, the Pacific stretched wide and blue, the waves steady and calm. Inside, I felt like a storm was about to crash through my front door. At first, I thought maybe Daniel was bluffing. Perhaps it was another one of his manipulations, a threat he could pull back if I refused. But the sound of engines on the winding coastal road crushed that hope. Through the tall windows, I saw the dust of multiple cars rising against the afternoon sun. He was serious, he was bringing them. My heart pounded in my chest, not out of fear but out of disbelief. How could anyone be so brazen as to descend on another person's home like this? When the first SUV rolled into my circular driveway, I felt the weight of inevitability. Car doors slammed one after another, the rhythm like hammer strikes on the piece I had carefully built. Daniel emerged first, sunglasses perched on his face, his stride as arrogant as ever. Jessica, his new wife, followed close behind, already holding her phone up to record. "Look at this place, you guys! It's like a resort," she squealed to her followers. Behind them, more people spilled out, children, friends, even strangers I did not recognize. Coolers, beach chairs, suitcases. It looked less like a family gathering and more like a weekend rental gone wrong. "Diana, this is incredible," Daniel announced as if he had discovered the house himself. Without waiting for an invitation, he stepped inside, sandy sandals squeaking on my imported Italian marble. The others streamed behind him, their voices bouncing off the high ceilings. Bags were dropped against walls, shoes kicked off carelessly, beer cans cracked open. My home, my sanctuary, was being claimed by people who saw it as nothing more than free lodging. "Jessica and I will take the master suite," Daniel declared within minutes. He had not even looked at me. He simply assumed. Jessica squealed from the doorway of my bedroom. "The lighting is perfect in here. I can shoot my morning yoga videos with the ocean behind me. This will be amazing content." My jaw tightened. That room was the one I had saved for, dreamed of, for decades. It held the balcony where I planned to sip coffee each morning and watch the sunrise. Now it was being measured for social media angles. I tried to speak. "This is not a good time. I am not ready for guests." My words were drowned out by the chaos. Mike, one of Daniel's old college roommates, whistled as he opened the fridge. "Man, she's stocked. We're going to eat like kings." Ashley, Jessica's sister, dragged 2 oversized bags across the living room. "The pool is perfect for the kids," she said, though I had never been told any children were coming. A little boy already dashed across the deck, dripping water from his shorts as he ran toward the infinity pool. I stepped into the hallway, my hands shaking. "The master bedroom is off limits." "That is my space," I said firmly. Daniel's laugh was sharp and dismissive. He placed a hand on my shoulder, the gesture less affectionate than commanding. "Come on, Diana, don't be selfish. You've got plenty of rooms. Jessica deserves the best view." I felt the burn of humiliation in my chest. My sacrifices, my work, my years of saving, they were invisible to him. All he saw was a resource to exploit. As more voices filled the house, I realized what had happened. In less than 10 minutes, my villa had transformed from a sanctuary into a vacation camp for people I had not invited. The clatter of beer bottles, the thump of music from my sound system, the laughter of people rearranging my furniture, it all merged into one unbearable truth. My dream was being stolen in real time, and if I did nothing, it would slip through my fingers completely. I looked at Daniel, his grin wide as he surveyed the home he believed he had conquered, and I knew. This was not a family visit. This was an invasion. I stood in the hallway, my back against the cool plaster wall, listening to the noise swell around me. My pulse raced, but somewhere underneath the fear a different current began to flow. I had given too much, bent too far, tolerated too long. If I stayed silent now, I would never have peace in this house again. This was the line, and I knew it. I slipped into my study, the one room that still felt untouched. The heavy oak desk, my shelves of design books, the view of the endless Pacific, this was my anchor. I closed the door and turned the lock with a quiet click. My hands trembled as I reached for the phone, but my voice was steady when the operator answered. "This is Diana Whitaker. I am the homeowner. There are people in my house who refuse to leave. I need help." The words tasted both foreign and powerful. For the first time, I was not smoothing things over. I was not paying to make a problem disappear. I was naming the truth. Outside my door, footsteps gathered. Daniel's voice carried through the wood, forced into a false cheer. "Diana, come on. Let's talk about this like adults." I held the phone tighter. They'd been told to leave and they refuse. I told the dispatcher. 15 individuals. This is my legal residence. I have the deed. The dispatcher's calm tone steadied me. "Officers are on their way. Stay in a secure place until they arrive." The knocking grew louder, more insistent. Jessica's voice joined in, high and sweet. "Please don't be like this. We're family." My chest tightened, but not with doubt. Family does not invade. Family does not ignore no. Family does not claim your bedroom while live streaming it to strangers online. I pressed my palm against the desk, grounding myself in its solid weight. Minutes stretched long. I heard arguments outside, some voices wanting to leave before things escalated, others urging Daniel to stand his ground. Then the distant wail of sirens floated through the salt air. Relief washed over me. Help was coming. I sat taller in my chair. For years I had carried the unspoken fear that I could not stand up to him, that saying no would destroy what little connection to Emily's memory I still had. But now, with every beat of my heart, I realized the opposite was true. Protecting myself did not dishonor my daughter. It honored the strength she had admired in me. When the officers arrived, the shift was immediate. Their presence was calm, professional, undeniable. Daniel tried to charm them, calling it a family misunderstanding. But the senior officer looked at me, then at the deed in my hand, and said the words that set me free. "The homeowner decides who stays. Everyone else leaves." Watching them pack their bags, hearing the scrape of suitcases against the marble floors, I felt something I had not felt in years. Not guilt, not fear, freedom. And when Daniel spat his parting shot, "Emily would be ashamed of you," I met his eyes and answered with a voice stronger than I imagined. "Do not ever use my daughter's name to excuse your greed." That night, long after the police cars had disappeared down the coastal road, I thought the worst was behind me. My villa was quiet again. The only sounds were the steady crash of waves and the hum of the air conditioner. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window, believing that peace had finally returned. But peace, as I would learn, has a way of being challenged from unexpected angles. The first sign came early the next morning. My phone buzzed insistently on the nightstand. Dozens of notifications lit up the screen: messages, missed calls, and alerts from social media. I rubbed my eyes, confused, until I saw the name at the center of it all: Daniel Miller. He had gone public. His post sat at the top of my feed, already shared by dozens of people. "Yesterday, my mother-in-law called the police on her own family." It read, "We just wanted to spend time together at her new villa, but money changes people. Emily would be heartbroken to see what her mother has become. Please keep us in your prayers." Below his words was a picture of Jessica, tears streaked, sitting in their car like a portrait of suffering. The caption beneath the photo read, "We just wanted love. We got rejection." The comments flowed like a river of judgment, so heartbreaking. Family should come first. How could she do this to you? People I had not seen in years, old neighbors, even a few colleagues were piling on, condemning me without knowing the truth. Jessica doubled down with a video filmed from the passenger seat of their SUV. She spoke softly, eyes red, voice trembling. "We drove for hours with the kids, hoping for a family reunion. We brought friends to celebrate Diana's new beginning. Instead, she called the police on us like we were strangers. I just can't understand how someone who used to be kind could turn so cold." My hands shook as I scrolled. Kids? There had been no children running through my villa the night before, aside from a friend's little boy. But the narrative had already shifted. Daniel and Jessica had transformed an invasion into a family tragedy, complete with innocent children as props. And people believed it. I tried to type a response. My fingers tapped clumsily on the keyboard. "This is one-sided." Daniel arrived with 15 uninvited guests. They refused to leave after I asked multiple times. I had no choice but to call the police. I pressed send, heart racing, but within minutes the replies came. Classic gaslighting. She's rewriting history to excuse her behavior. 15 people? That sounds exaggerated. My explanation looked defensive, cold in the face of Jessica's tears. I closed the laptop, my chest tight. For years, my strength had been in careful planning, in contracts and details. But online, none of that mattered. Social media did not reward documentation. It rewarded emotion. It rewarded stories told with trembling voices and tearful eyes. Daniel understood that. Jessica understood that. And now I was the villain in their play. By noon, local community pages had picked up the story. "Wealthy woman turns away family at new coastal mansion," one headline read. I stared at the words, stunned at how quickly strangers could strip away a lifetime of sacrifice and reduce me to a caricature. I had designed schools, hospitals, libraries. I had donated quietly to causes Emily cared about. None of that mattered. All that mattered was a single post crafted to wound me and to polish Daniel's image as the grieving widower still carrying his wife's memory. Sitting there, surrounded by unopened boxes and the photo of my daughter on the mantel, I felt a weight heavier than any I had carried in years. They had taken my money, my time, my patience, and now they were trying to take my reputation. I realized with painful clarity that I could not win this battle on their chosen ground. If I wanted justice, I would have to fight it where facts still held weight. That evening, I sat at my desk with a cup of black coffee instead of wine. The villa was silent except for the ocean beyond the glass, but inside me a different kind of tide was rising. For most of my life, I had solved problems by outworking them, by thinking through every angle until a solution appeared. Daniel thought this fight was about who could cry the loudest on camera. He had forgotten who I was. I built my career on details, and I still had every detail. I pulled open the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. Neatly labeled folders slid forward, each one a record of the help I had given over the years. Bank statements, wire transfer receipts, checks copied before I mailed them out. $45,000 for the MBA, $30,000 for the wedding, $60,000 for the house, $85,000 in medical bills, smaller amounts here and there, repairs, credit cards, surprise emergencies. I spread them across the desk, page after page of proof. Nearly $300,000 in 6 years, not counting the interest I had lost, the retirement plans I had delayed. I stared at the stack, my chest heavy, and whispered to the photo of Emily on the shelf. "This isn't kindness anymore, sweetheart. This is exploitation." Her smile in that frame gave me courage. The next morning I called my attorney, Howard Brennan. We had worked together after Emily's death to update my estate plan. He was steady, meticulous, the kind of man who read fine print twice. "Howard, it's Diana. I need your advice. I have years of documentation of financial support for Daniel. He's now spreading lies about me publicly. What can we do?" He listened carefully, then asked a question that changed everything. "Do you still have proof of the payments?" When I told him I had receipts for every dollar, his tone sharpened. "Then we can build a case. This isn't generosity anymore, it's a pattern of financial abuse. We can file for restitution and address the defamation as well." For the first time in days, I felt my lungs fill all the way. This wasn't just about defending myself online. It was about taking back control, about showing Daniel that emotional manipulation could not erase hard evidence, about reminding myself that strength does not vanish with age. I hung up the phone knowing I had just crossed a line Daniel never expected me to. I was no longer the resource he could drain. I was his reckoning. Monday morning, I walked into the courthouse with my briefcase heavy in my hand. Inside were the records of 6 years of quiet sacrifice now transformed into evidence. Howard met me at the entrance, his calm demeanor a steady anchor. "We have everything we need," he said. For the first time in days, I believed him. The hearing room was small but charged with tension. Daniel sat across the aisle, his confidence dimmed. His designer sunglasses were gone, his shoulders slumped. Jessica was beside him, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, but the performance looked thin under the fluorescent lights. Their attorney shuffled papers without enthusiasm, clearly unprepared for the wall of documentation Howard had assembled. The judge reviewed the files in silence, eyebrows rising as each transaction was laid out. "Mrs. Whitaker," she said, "your records are extraordinarily detailed." Then she turned to Daniel. "Your counsel claims these were gifts, but here are multiple messages where you promised repayment. Here are bank transfers marked as loans, and here are public posts where you claimed financial hardship while living beyond your reported means. Can you explain this contradiction?" Daniel's mouth opened, then closed. He had no explanation. Howard spoke with calm precision, outlining the pattern: tuition, wedding, mortgage, medical bills, lifestyle expenses. Each promised to repay, each new demand. "This is not generosity," he concluded. "It is exploitation." The judge nodded. Her decision was clear. "Mr. Miller," she said, "you will repay $150,000 over the next 3 years. In addition, you will issue a public retraction of your statements on social media within 10 days. Failure to comply will result in further legal action, including potential seizure of assets." Jessica gasped. Daniel stared at the table, the bravado gone. I sat straighter, feeling a weight slide off my shoulders. This wasn't revenge. It was justice. It was finally drawing a line that should have been drawn years ago. As the gavel struck, the sound rang in my ears like the crash of the waves outside my villa. For the first time, the law had spoken the truth I had been too afraid to say aloud. I was not selfish. I was not cruel. I was a woman reclaiming her boundaries. And Daniel at last was being held accountable. That evening, I returned to my villa as the sun dipped low, painting the ocean in gold and crimson. For the first time since buying this house, the silence inside felt like it belonged to me. No voices demanding rooms, no footsteps on my marble floors, no chaos drowning out the sound of waves. Just peace, the kind I had spent a lifetime building toward. I poured a glass of wine and carried it to the balcony. Emily's photo sat on the side table, her smile soft in the fading light. "I think you'd understand, sweetheart," I whispered. "You taught me kindness, but you also taught me strength." Today I learned the two are not the same. My chest loosened with the words. I had honored her memory, not by giving endlessly, but by protecting what I had earned. The lesson was simple yet hard won. Generosity without boundaries is not love, it is surrender. And surrender can cost you everything. Now, with lines drawn clearly, I could offer kindness without being consumed by it. To those listening, I leave you with this. If my story has touched you, please like this video, share it with someone who may need courage, and tell me in the comments, have you ever had to say no to protect your peace?